Tere kõigile! Meie räägime nüüd filmist Mutantide rünnak. Küsige julgelt küsimusi nii eesti kui inglise keeles, kuidas teil mugavam on. Ärge unustage, et läbi terve nädalavahetuse toimub HÕFF-i lemmikfilmi hääletus Elisa Stage platvormil ja välja pandud on ka auhind, milleks on HÕFF-i järgmise aasta pass. Ja peale meie vestlust on see sama film üleval, te saate seda vaadata läbi terve nädalavahetuse ja ma kindlasti seda teha soovitan, et see on üks mõnus positiivsuse laks. Ja meil ongi ühendus filmi režissööriga ja lülitume üle inglise keelele. Hello, Fernando. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
So we are here to talk about your first film, Mutant Blast, and it is an absolute blast. It was a long process. I believe it was almost 7 years in the making, but
yes.
You achieved something very impressive in many ways, but one of the things is that you got Troma Studios to be a partner on your first film. So, and I understand that they didn't even read the script before they signed on. So could you talk a little bit how and when they became involved?
Yes, I met Lloyd Kaufman, the head of Troma Studios, at a festival in Spain, and it showed my short films, and Lloyd saw the short films, Papa Wrestling and Banana Motherfucker, and he saw the films without subtitles, without English subtitles, with Spanish subtitles. And the thing is that heads getting crushed and people spewing liters of blood is a universal language. So he laughed all the way through. So we exchanged contacts, and I kept in contact with the Troma, and I worked on their latest film, Return to Nukem High, in 2012. I worked on the special effects crew. So I pitched Troma the movie. I want to make a zombie movie, and they said yes. So the movie was green lit with just one phrase, because they wanted to make a movie with me. So that's afterwards that I started writing the screenplay, and then it turned into something else quite differently. It stopped being a zombie movie and became something else much stranger, and I hope more funny and original.
Oh, definitely. It's such a ride. I think that's every filmmaker's dream, is to get funding off of one sentence.
Well, it was not a lot of money, but speaking of funding, it's like but I'm very grateful. But it's a very little amount of money, and then we. Because it was a very low budget film, it's like we didn't have money to pay salaries, and so the crew they were working, pro bono and on their spare time. And a few years afterwards, we got money from the Portuguese Film Institute. So it's a very strange mix, Troma and the Portuguese Film Institute, because they finance films that are more like artistic, they don't generally give money to those kind of films, which I think speaks for the artistic qualities of the film, that they saw that it was worth, supporting.
Yes, absolutely. I do want to talk about the script of this a little bit, because like you said, you started with a zombie movie and then it morphed into something else and something better, in my opinion. I just, in the process of writing, were you constantly trying to surprise yourself and surprise the viewer? Because, I gotta say, I loved this movie throughout, but one of my kind of favorite parts from the beginning is when this big, fearless soldier that I believe is one of the main characters gets accidentally killed in quite early on. So was that your aim, to constantly keep the viewer guessing?
Yes, that was the aim, and I purposefully started the film in a position where it's like if you see the first 5 minutes, you think that you know what you're going to get. You know, if you see the first 5 minutes and then you press stop and ask the person who's watching what's going to happen next, they'll never guess that it will end up with a dolphin fighting a lobster. So the beginning is very cliche on purpose. You begin with a character that's a bit like the Terminator on a scientific, complex that's kind of similar to the ones in Resident Evil. So that's the mashup of the elements that I came up with. I wanted to be cliche on purpose so that afterwards, after the beginning, I would constantly be surprising the audience. And that's something that I think works very well because that scene, that's when I know when I've been to several festivals last year, and then that's the scene where I know that okay, the audience is enjoying the movie because people will go crazy when that scene happens.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, and that guessing, and yeah, you think you're seeing this film about this character, and then you flip it, and it's really great. Well, as you already mentioned, the dolphin and the lobster, of course, one important message that this movie gets across is that dolphins are motherfuckers. So, could you talk a little bit about like where did that even come from? Because that scene with the two of them on the beach is, I mean, it's brilliant.
Well, because I was always fascinated by the plight of the lobsters because there are a lot of activists that want to save whales and want to save dolphins, but nobody really cares about lobsters, because they are ugly and dolphins are cute. And the truth is that the dolphins, they are very sadistic animals. They torture their prey. They just don't kill it. So it's weird that of course that we should save dolphins. We should save all animals, but nobody cares about the lobsters, and the lobsters are boiled alive. It's horrific. So I always found that fascinating, the hypocrisy of humanity, because that animal is worth saving because it's so cute, and the other one is just dinner.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that, and it's just, yeah, it was such a great scene. I do want to ask about, I mean, even in your short films, and especially in this one, it seems like one of your favorite things, correct me if I'm wrong, is to decapitate different characters. So is
Yes.
this, it seems for you like it's very simple, so I'm just interested, could you give me like tips if I have never done pretend decapitation? Is it difficult? Does it for you take 2 minutes now, and why is that your favorite?
Yes, now it takes 2 minutes, but it was like I had 10 years to perfect this technique. And in my short films, in my first short film, the Papa Wrestling, all the characters that they had their heads crushed or decapitated, they were hats. That's because we didn't have money to buy wigs. So now on Mutant Blast, you had a bigger budget. So now the characters will get decapitated. We can have the dummy having hair. We can put a wig on the dummy. So that's an evolution that happened during this film, and. It's like it takes 2 minutes now. It's very simple. The way I do it, for example, if I decapitate a character, I film a human, the actor, and then we cut and we put like a dummy and a dummy with already a cut on the neck, and then it gets punched and we just squirt a lot of blood with the syringes. So we're getting really good at it. So
Is that something your friends ask you to do for them? Just could I have like a shot of me being decapitated?
I've had people ask me, but I've never done it. It's like it's easy to do, but it's still a little bit of work. So.
Okay. Talking about effects and heads rolling, I mean, let's talk a little bit about practical effects. which is kind of most of the movie, if I'm not mistaken. You
Yes.
do a lot of practical effects. So could you maybe talk a little bit why it was important for you to do it that way? And then I really want to talk about the giant rat.
Okay, yeah, sure. I mean, in terms of practical effects, I think that CGI blood is always fake. It takes me out of the movie. So it's a pain in the ass when we are shooting because blood gets everywhere. You don't really have a way to protect the camera and the lenses. If you cover the camera and the lenses and there's a little small hole that doesn't get covered, that's where the blood's going to come in. It's like... Yeah, so I understand why some people don't want to use practical effects because it's so much easier to do it later on the computer. But for me, it only works. Digital effects in these cases are better to enhance. So in the case of a Mutant Blast, when I was doing the switch, when the cut from an actor to a dummy. In Mutant Blast, we actually rotoscoped the actors' faces onto the dummy. So if you have a character being decapitated and the head flies off screen, even if it's 3 frames that you see, if you pause it, you'll see the actor's face on the dummy. So that looks so much more realistic. And that's something that didn't happen in the short films. When we replaced it with the dummy, there was no enhancement. So the digital effects has a place, in enhancing, but it's the blood, all of that is practical. There was some enhancing in there was a decapitation where I had some blood squirting and I wanted more, but we rotoscoped the blood and we put it on the other side. We didn't use the CGI blood. We actually only used CGI blood right at the beginning of the action sequence because we couldn't, the walls of the place we were shooting had to be clean. We couldn't ruin it. So in that scene, we do have some CGI blood.
Was your blood budget like crazy or?
Yeah, it was. I think I might have spent probably, I'll say 500 euros on blood. Probably, yes. I think that sounds right. Yeah, 500 euros. I use a hair gel to give thickness to the blood and water, and then red food coloring. So I bought like 20 liters of food coloring and 100 liters of hair gel. I still have some at home. We didn't spend it all.
Wow. So yeah, I hope everybody who's interested in Decapitation is making notes. But coming back to the giant rat, because it is like less than 2 minutes in the film. It is such an amazing twist. I believe it's 3 guys, 1 suit. So how did that come about?
Not at the same time. It's not 3 guys at the same time. We shot the rat in different days, and it was different guys in different days. It was very heavy, the suit. It was very difficult to put it on because we have to put it on, and then the head and the back, they are separate, and then they have hair, and then they have to comb the hair so we don't notice the separation of the parts of the suit. So it was like a big headache, and then all the weight was on the shoulders. It was really tough to shoot, and it was like it's 2 minutes of screen time, the rat, and it took like 5 years to build. I built it with not just me, with some other people, but it was in my house. And I had people come over my house, and the giant rat was like in my living room. And people would say, "Oh, is the movie about a giant rat?" And I'd say, "No, it's just 2 minutes in the movie." And if I had known when I was writing how much trouble that giant rat would have been, I would not have written it. So I'm glad I was naive, that I didn't think too much, and because it's one of the funniest scenes of the movie. But it was a lot of work, like years of work for 2 minutes of screen time.
Wow, but I agree, it totally like makes it better and funnier. Do you still have the giant rat in your living room?
I do not. I live with my parents, and my mother said have to get rid of the rat, so I got rid of the rat. I kept the head, but the whole body, it's like it's enormous. I would need a warehouse to keep all that stuff. So maybe it was a mistake. Maybe it would be worth a lot of money in the future, but.
I do want to talk about it's not like you have an environmental message per se, but you do talk about it in a very funny and interesting way. And like the climate crisis really does come across. But when you were writing the script, was it, because it's very organic in the film, so was that something you were conscious of? Or because the film would have worked just fine without it as well. It could have been just funny.
Yeah. When I started the movie, I really didn't think I'm going to make a movie with a message. I didn't think about that. But, my ideas kind of found their way into the screenplay. So that's why you have the message. But for me, it was very important that while you were getting this message, that it was not being preachy. That's why you're laughing. You don't even think too much about it because, oh, I'm being preached, because it's all so funny and absurd. But I think it's some concerns that I've always had, and it came naturally. I didn't force my ideas into the screenplay.
Yeah, it does. It works very well, and like I said, organically. Are you working on a next film already? Do you know? Are you going into production sometime, or?
Well, I don't know when I'm going into production. First, because of the current situation, we don't know when can we resume, normal life and shooting films. But I am currently looking for funding. So if there's a rich guy that watched the movie and wants to finance my next movie, please contact me. I wrote a screenplay in quarantine. So during this time, I have a screenplay ready, the next project ready to go. I'll say that it's like John Wick, but funny with comedy bits.
Oh wow, I gotta say, that sounds very good. I'm afraid we are out of time. I highly recommend Mutant Blast, and honestly, it is such a joy to watch. And Fernando, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for making this film, and I really look forward to your next one.
Thank you for having me.
Aitäh!